Hello and welcome to Coffee and Card with Linda from lindaspapercraft.co.uk. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and this month it's July 2023 and we're using the two-tone Flora bundle. Although we're not using the stamps today, we're going to use the dies, and this is the die we're going to use. Beautiful background die. But you do need a few extra little tips on how to cut that out the best. I've just noticed I've left a piece of card in there. Not good. That's it, yeah. So always try and clean your dies afterwards. It's really good practice. A, because it's easy for if you're in a class and it's the next person, it's easy for her to use, so she don't have to pull all the bits out. And secondly, it will keep your dies cutting for longer. Right, so I'm going to pop that out. I keep them on a very magnetic sheet, and it was not letting go. So as I've previously pointed out, this set does not have any sentiments in it. So I've teamed it up this week with something fancy. Now this was my June product class. So it's a class we do on Zoom where you get the dies, if there are dies, the stamp set and a kit, and you provide the ink and glue and everything else to go with it, and we do it over Zoom, and there is a PDF, so if you want to do it on your own time you can do. Anyway, this is what we used last time, and everybody who's booked on this Coffee and Card has this set, so that's why I've used it. So it's got matching dies, brilliant. Go and have a look in the catalogue. Right, so in this card packet, there we go, we have some diamonds. So 2 labels that I've used using the something fancy dies for your sentiment, and then you've got a card base and 2 bits of basic white. One of them is smaller than the other. The smaller one is for inside the card, so we'll put that to one side. The larger one fits the front of the card exactly. Okay, so what I would say is this is an American company. Stampin' Up is an American company, so this is an American die. Okay, so it is the size of the front of an American card. They use letter as their base card size, we use A4. So their cards are slightly wider and slightly shorter than ours. So I thought I'll do it on an American base so that you get the full effect of the die. So this is 5.5 inches by 4 1/4. So I got a piece of paper that was 5.5 inches by 8.5 and scored at 4 1/4. Okay, still fits in our envelopes, so it's fine. Okay, so put everything else to the side that we don't need at the moment, and I'm going to get my die cutting machine in place. So you need to have the dies, the sandwich you use for cutting thin dies. So I've got my thin die adapter on, I've got my platform on, and I've got 2 cutting plates. Okay, so, and I need it so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm actually going to moving my pad so you can see the desk, because I don't want the die cutting machine wobbling around all over the place. Okay, so I've got everything set up here. I try and keep one plate just for cutting and 1 plate for the top, but I did use it in a card class, so somebody swapped them over, but never mind. Right, so what we're going to do, normally when you do a die cut, you put your card onto the cutting plate and you place your die on top. Now I've put it at an angle. Whenever you're cutting anything that's square or rectangle or has any straight edge, always put it at an angle, because then the rollers have much more chance of cutting, because you're not presenting a straight edge to the straight roller, and it can jump, miss the first few bits. It just doesn't do your machine any good and often doesn't cut very well. So I'm just going to slide that off a little bit so I can grab hold of it. So I'm now going to put my top panel on. Okay, everything's lined up and I'm happy with it. I'm now going to flip it. Okay, so now the cutting side is up. the die and the card are at an angle, and we're now ready to push it through. Now this is take 2 of this video. On the first video I forgot to put it straight, and I actually couldn't get it through my big shot. It just would not go through. It was too much for it to have that big straight line. I mean, I'm sure if I really pushed it would go through. This, there you go, way easier. So tip number 3, keep going. So it's gone through once. I'm now coming back. I'm going again. Ooh, everything's moving. So that's 3 times. So I'm going to do it once more for good luck. And then I'm going to check by carefully taking off the top plate, that's the word I was looking for, that it's cut. So I'm just lifting off that top plate, and I'm sure you can see from there every single little bit has cut. Okay, so and some of it's been left behind on here. Just putting those back in. The reason I use one top plate and one as the bottom plate is they last longer. I'm just going to do this so I can put it away, centre everything up again, and largely that's the hardest piece of the card done. We have the die cut. This is the tedious part now, getting all the bits out. Right, so I still have my old Sizzix die brush, which is going on strong. The Stampin' Up! Do an attachment that goes onto here, which works brilliantly with all your tools all in one place. So, but I am going to use my Sizzix die because it's still working fine. Oh, my Sizzix die brush. Okay, excuse the sound. So we're just taking all the bits out. You can do this with a pokey tool, it does take forever. And I always start off with the die in place if I can. Sometimes the die's already come off and you can't, but it just protects your paper if your die cuts in there. So, a few, the little tiny ones. When I first saw one of these, I hated the noise. I now love the noise because it saves me so much time. So I'm now going to take, and the die will probably still be attached to your paper. And you can see, I can see there's a load of little circles that haven't come out. And have you got any more bits that are still in there? Yep, one there. Go away. You can always come back with your poker tool and get rid of the rest. And then you will see that there are a few holes that haven't cut, and they're just so that you can pop your poker tool through there just to help the die out. Okay, so how beautiful is that? There was some way we could use that as the negative. But let's not. Okay, so I'll just get rid of all of these bits of paper and dust onto the floor. Are we still straight? We are. Okay, so I'm going to get the card back and we're going to get this out. So as I say, there's a few holes that don't correspond with die cuts. Okay, so there's one there. So you can just use them just to loosen the die as you're coming through. So there's another one there. So I'm just poking through to help the die come out. There's one there. It's not ready yet. There's one here. So let's pull this off. And it went anyway. And we're just easing it away from the die. And it's worth being patient. You spent a long time cutting this out. You don't want to wreck it now. So I'm going to come from the bottom. The bottom comes out a lot easier because there's a lot less of the fine detail on the bottom. Okay, and we're just going to push it out gently bit by bit. So there's a little pushy point there. That's lifted that out. Got that one out, and then I'm just coming up on another one here, so I'm just helping that die come out. There's one here, that one's done. There's just one there. It's just freeing it up, and I'm hoping that that means that there'll be less stretching. So as we're coming to these two, and this is where the die is the die cut rather is at its weakest because there is so much detail here. So I'm just gently pulling out. Probably should better do it from this side, then you can see what I'm doing. Just this last little leaf there. There we go. Okay, so there is a little bit of stretching, but once it's glued down, you won't notice it. You can see there. In fact, that's the least stretching I've ever managed, so I'm quite pleased with that. Okay, that's fine. And I think I've got all my bits of paper out, so I can put that away. So it's well worth just spending that little bit extra time. Don't try and yank it out because you will rip it. Getting that out of the die cut. And then what we are going to use is my silicone craft mat, which is still out, due for a wash, covered in glue. Okay, and I'm going to use this and I'm going to pop my glue on. I also have an emergency cocktail stick in case I miss any bits that I can add it on afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to start with a thin bead. She says, come on, you can do it. All the way down the outside. Okay, so little bits, and then some bits around the flowers. Okay, back round the outside here, so it's all the way along the bottom there. I'll try and get the ends of any fronds, so I'm just doing every sort of other leaf. I'm not doing every single leaf because they'll just hold each other down. Make sure you've got some glue on each of the fronds, and I'm targeting sort of slightly thicker areas that where patterns are joining together, just randomly adding glue. If I sort of slightly miss or it overflows and goes on the silicone mat, it's saving my paper underneath this. Because those who've already watched last week's know I already got glue on it last week. Hence the new pristine sheet this week. Okay, definitely on these two here, get those free hanging leaves. Okay, so I'm now going to go along the top. Again, just a thinnish bead. And then down the side. A nice thin bead, and again back up now, getting your big flowers. Just you can put loads on those. These little flowers just need one on each. And as I say, concentrate on sort of the free hanging bits, because they're the bits that are going to come up. Right, I think I am about done. A few little extra bits, and we're just doing tiny weeny dots now. There. Right, you see, got a few dots on the mat. These are really great. Either let the glue dry and use it again, or every now and then I just wash mine under the tap. Right, so now line it up with the fold of your card. Okay, and then it will just cover up the front like that. And what I tend to do is give it a good press from the back. It's sticking up slightly at the front there. Have I gone too low at the bottom? Too high? I have. Just could have done with being a smidge lower down, but it's fine. Okay, so you can see here it's not sticking. This is why we need our emergency cocktail stick to make it stick. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. Right, so bring back your silicone mat and put down some glue. And I just pop it on the end of my cocktail stick and just pop my cocktail stick underneath where I want to go. So I'm just going to do under here. And no, that's stuck. Just, I think that's enough actually. There, and then on this bit here. So like that. And that's enough. To be fair, that is where my sentiment's going as well. So that's fine. So there we go. How beautiful is that? It's so quick once you've done your die cutting. And it's well worth taking your time. Absolutely well worth taking your time and getting that all sorted. Right, so I'm going to pop the piece on the inside. Yeah, you see I've gone slightly. Now it's up to you what you want to do there. You can trim that off or just leave it. I think it's so small, I'm going to leave it. Come on. I thought I'd picked up my new one, but clearly I haven't. When I used to leave the labels on, it was much easier because if the label was mucky, then it's the old one. But I take them off now because the labels do get mucky. Get a bit sticky, so it's just easier without. There we go. Right, so I'm going to get my sentiment. So here's to a beautiful beginning, to beautiful beginnings and happily ever afters. So gorgeous wedding card, baby card, engagement card, new job, maybe, bit cheesy for a new job. Okay, and I'm just going to stamp that onto the label there. And we're working with Orchid Oasis today. So, put that away, which is one of last year's in colours. Again, you can make this card again and again and again. Any colour you want, any colour combination you want as well. There's no reason, nothing says that the floral bit needs to be white. It could be blue. That reminds me of that song. I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I think Ryan Reynolds was singing it the other day. Bizarre. Alright. Okay, and I'm just going to, actually I'm going to pop my diamantes on next. Where's my poker tool? So, I'm going to use my putty end and just pick up and pop down my diamante. So one there, one just there, and one at the bottom. There we go. And then I'm going to mirror that with my dimensionals. See if I can find some dimensionals. There we go. So I'm going to put one there. One there. One there, and then I'm going to sort of add some extra. I find if you put the dimensional behind the diamante, if you're going to post it, the card won't get squashed round the diamante. It will be supported. It won't squash the diamante down. Although looking at some of the postage, our postal service seems to be quite good at not squashing stuff. She says, hopefully. Right, okay, and I'm just going just look at that. It is just 2 layers and a sentiment. But how beautiful is that? So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.